What are your perspectives on life? There's nothing quite like arming your enemies. And we, as Americans in this country, the US of A, are sending the Islamic nation $191 million in assistance. So says judicialwatch.org. Now keep in mind, Yemen is a hotbed of terrorism that serves as the headquarters of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. They call themselves AQAP. The international community strongly opposed the Trump administration's classification of another Yemeni radical faction, Ansarallah, known as Partisans of God, which was, according to the Federal Register Bulletin, committed or has attempted to commit or poses a significant risk of committing or has participated in training to commit acts of terrorism that threaten the security of U.S. nationals or the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States as a specially designated global terrorist entity, asserting that it would come with repercussions for humanitarian operations. Why? Why would this administration turn right around and go back into that? Well, it turns out it's because that's what the United Nations wants from us. In mid-February, Secretary of State Antony Blinken obliged, explaining that the decision to revoke Ansarallah's terrorist designation is a recognition of the dire humanitarian situation in Yemen. A situation, by the way, that was created by the minders, by the people who run the country. We're worried about the citizens, but it's the government that created the dearth, the problem the citizens have. And you can't help the citizens without helping the government. And the government will turn right around and make it worse. Nobody sees that. It's only happened 872,000 times in human history. It's tried and true. The State Department issued an announcement saying, "We have listened to warnings from the United Nations, humanitarian groups, and bipartisan members of Congress, among others, that the designations could have a devastating impact on Yemen's access to basic commodities like food and fuel. The revocations are intended to ensure that relevant U.S. policies do not impede assistance to those already suffering what has been called the world's worst humanitarian crisis." It's a man-made crisis. By focusing on alleviating the humanitarian situation in Yemen, we hope, they say, the Yemeni parties can also focus on engaging in dialogue. They're going to pay them to get into a discussion with us, so maybe we can have some help sent that way, and those people won't die so quickly. But why are the Yemenis suffering? And where does the money go? Is anybody awake in Washington? Or is it me? Okay, it's probably me. I just don't understand. Maybe it's because I'm old. There's a website out there called men.com. Had no idea. They talk about the future of driving cars. Widespread production of hydrogen-powered cars has not happened yet. But General Motors is eyeing an all-electric fleet by 2035. They keep pushing it back. They now have that date because they have the backing of a Biden administration. Lawmakers in state capitals across the country and in Washington are increasingly confronting the troublesome questions about gasoline taxes. Have you thought about it? We go to electric, who's going to buy gas? Do you not know how fundamental gasoline and the taxes are in this country? A lot of them have settled on an answer. The answer is to charge drivers a penny or two for every mile behind the wheel. That would bring in tax dollars for the roads. but it also would present a whole new set of obstacles. States are leading the way, with Oregon and Utah launching the first programs and several others running pilots to test technology and build public support. This approach has bipartisan support in Washington, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has signaled his openness. But existing programs operate on a small scale, and a national system would mean tracking millions of vehicles. Tracking being the operative word. Supporters are pushing for a quick adoption of proposals to maintain funding of the nation's crumbling infrastructure. The opponents, however, including environmental advocates, argue the shift is premature at a time when electric vehicles are a fraction of cars on the road. New fees would also slow down their adoption, they say. The auto industry looks into an electric future and sees bumps ahead. The Oregon Task Force put the state at the forefront of a new approach known as a road user charge, or something called Vehicle Miles Travel Tax, a VMT. The state launched a voluntary program in 2015. Legislators in Salem, Oregon, are considering a bill that would make the program mandatory for new vehicles with a fuel economy rating of 30 miles per gallon or higher, starting in 2016. That would include my car. I noticed today going to church, just riding down the road on a straight and level road, I'm getting 40 miles to the gallon. That's what the computer tells me. If I'm out on the highway, I'm getting more than 30. They're going to start taxing me because my gas mileage is too good. State Representative John Lively, a Democrat, the bill's sponsor, said the state has demonstrated that a program can work and that it's time to take the next step. What that step is, they don't say. But each one of these vehicles is going to be tracked. They're going to want to know how those vehicles are doing. They're going to want to know how many miles those vehicles are traveling. They want to know where they are. This is the brave new world that's coming to your grandchildren. If you're over the age of 50, they tell us you are likely to have a heart attack. Do you know what to do if you have a heart attack? When I had my heart attack, I knew instantly to sit down. I was walking a dog on a hill of ground, and I knew not to do that anymore. ChristianHeadlines.com put out a short article just for information. If you think you're having a heart attack, it says take a deep breath. A deep breath should be taken before each cough, and the cough must be deep and prolonged, the kind of cough that would produce sputum deep inside your chest. You say, the heart attack's going to cause me to cough? No. You think you're having a heart attack, start coughing. A breath and a cough must be repeated about every 2 seconds without let up until help arrives, or until the heart is felt to be beating normally again. Deep breaths get oxygen into the lungs, and coughing movements squeeze the heart and keep the blood circulating. I didn't have that kind of a heart attack. I just simply had a serious, heavy pain in upper left chest that was still there the next morning when I got up. A lot subdued, about half, but it was enough I knew it was there. They say the squeezing pressure on the heart also helps it to regain a normal rhythm. There is a new law that requires parents of teenage children, in this case a girl, to be notified if she is seeking a judicial bypass for an abortion. I say this case a girl because there are things for boys as well, not for abortions, for other things. The law includes an exemption for parental notification if the judge finds that such notification is not in the girl's best interests. We're talking about bad parents here. The U.S. Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals on March 12th upheld a district court ruling that declared the law unconstitutional, agreeing with the lower court's decision that, quote, the notification requirement was likely to impose an undue burden on the right to obtain an abortion for a significant fraction of minors for whom the requirement would be relevant. Further, the new law has no, quote, appreciable benefit. The decision was 2-1. The case has a complicated history and could be heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. The law was passed in 2017, but overturned by the Seventh Circuit Court in 2019. In 2020, the Supreme Court vacated the Seventh Court's decision, ordered it to reconsider the ruling in light of another abortion rights Supreme Court case, June Medical Services, LLC versus Russo. Although pro-lifers lost the June medical case, Chief Justice John Roberts' opinion in the majority was seen as weakening pro-choice legal arguments and potentially laying the groundwork for future pro-life victories. The Seventh Circuit, in the newest opinion, was split on whether Roberts' decision should impact their decision. But up in the north, up in Canada, same kind of thing is going on. A Canadian father was just put in jail this past month after he disobeyed a court order refusing to call his 14-year-old biological daughter, who now identifies as male, his son. He went to jail for that. The case has drawn worldwide attention, mostly because it includes a father and mother who disagree over the child's best interests. Obviously, the couple is separated. The father is under court order not to discuss the case in public. The court also has ordered him to call the child his son and to use only the child's preferred pronouns, he and him. The fathers refused to obey the court. He even set up a fundraising website detailing information about the case in defiance of the court order. The father opposes giving the child puberty blockers, believing the child might grow up to regret the decision. Yeah. The mother, the medical system, and the courts have endorsed puberty blockers for the child. The Post-Millennial, a Canadian website, reported that the father was arrested last Tuesday. A judge had issued the warrant, said he was in contempt of court after talking about the case in public and calling his child his daughter, using the pronouns she and her. What a criminal. He is a father watching a perfectly healthy child be destroyed, and there's nothing he can do. That, according to the court, he says, I can only affirm, or I can be thrown in jail. The court understands this child has complex mental health problems. The court blamed these on gender dysphoria. The father? He says, what kind of a father would I be when my daughter realizes what she's done and begins detransitioning, and she asks me, why didn't you do anything to stop this? None of you stuck your neck out for me back then. This is the sticky wicket in this issue.